My name is Avery, and at 31, I never thought my life would turn into a warning about trusting too much. Just last month, I sold my tech company for $20 million. I was ready to buy my dream house with a $10 million cash offer. Growing up with my hardworking single mom, Carol, and younger sister, Brooke, I believed I knew what family meant. So, when I needed a safe place for the cash overnight, I picked my mom's house. By morning, both my mom and sister were gone, and so was the money. They left a teasing note. If you're wondering why I'm smiling, keep reading. Before I go on, tell me where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe to see how I turn this betrayal into the sweetest payback. Let me tell you how it all started. I grew up in a small 2-bedroom apartment in Boston. The wallpaper was peeling, and there was always a mold problem. Mom worked 2 shifts at the local diner. She'd come home with sore feet and the smell of grease stuck to her clothes. Money was always tight. Christmas meant one small gift. Birthdays were celebrated with homemade cake. Vacations were just a dream. From a young age, I knew that school was my way out. While other kids played after school, I studied. When my friends went to parties on weekends, I worked part-time at the grocery store, saving every penny. My drive was like an obsession. I remember my high school counselor, Mr. Davis, telling me, "Avery, you work like someone's chasing you." And in a way, something was. The fear of being stuck in poverty. My hard work paid off when I got a full scholarship to Stanford. Even then, I worked 2 part-time jobs to pay for living costs. I lived on cheap noodles and free campus events, sending any extra money home to help Mom and Brooke. Those college years were a blur of classes, coding all night, and late shifts at the campus library. After graduating, I got a junior developer job at a small tech company. Within 2 years, I had made enough friends in the industry and felt confident enough to start my own business. My company, Secure Flow, made special software for banks. We struggled at first, 18-hour workdays, maxed-out credit cards, and the constant fear of failing. But by our 3rd year, we had big clients and started making a lot of money. During this journey, my relationship with my mother, Carol, was always a bit difficult. On the outside, she seemed to support me, congratulating me on my wins and proudly telling her friends about my success. But sometimes I'd see a quick flash of something else in her eyes. Maybe it was bitterness. When I'd excitedly share a business breakthrough, she'd listen quietly before changing the topic to Brooke's problems or her own health issues. As my company grew, I made sure to share my success. I bought Mom a nice, comfortable 3-bedroom house in a good neighborhood with a garden she had always wanted. I paid off her medical bills and gave her a generous monthly allowance so she could finally quit her diner job. She accepted everything with a smile that never quite reached her eyes, saying things like, "Well, I guess all those years of hard work were worth it," or "At least one of my girls made something of herself." Brooke was 5 years younger than me and seemed to avoid responsibility. While I was driven and focused, she just drifted through life. She dropped out of community college after 1 semester, worked different retail jobs, and always had some drama with friends or boyfriends. Mom always made excuses for her. "She's just figuring things out," or "Not everyone can be as focused as you, Avery." In recent years, Brooke relied on me more and more for money. Every few months, there would be an emergency. Car repairs, overdue rent, unexpected medical bills. I always sent money, though I'd sometimes suggest career counseling or offer to help her find a more stable job. These suggestions usually led to tearful phone calls to Mom about how I thought I was better than everyone else. Last Thanksgiving, I noticed something strange. Brooke kept going outside to take phone calls, speaking in quiet voices. When I asked about it, Mom quickly said Brooke was finally seeing someone good. The topic changed fast. Looking back now, I should have paid more attention to the secret glances they shared. Despite these hidden currents, I never doubted their love. We were family after all. When the offer came to buy Secure Flow for $20 million, they were the first people I called. Mom cried and said she was proud. Brooke squealed and asked if this meant I could help her start the clothing store she'd been talking about. I was too excited to notice how quickly their thoughts turned to what my success meant for them. The sale process took months of talks, legal checks, and paperwork. Through it all, I dreamed of the house I had seen in the hills overlooking the city. A modern, amazing house with glass walls, an infinity pool, and enough space for a proper home office and guest rooms for family visits. At $28 million, it was a lot, but I planned to offer $10 million in cash to beat other buyers. My life seemed perfect. My company's technology would reach more people under its new owner. I had more money than I could have ever imagined growing up, and I was about to buy my dream home. I was even engaged to Ben, a kind and down-to-earth environmental engineer who loved me for who I was, not what I had. I had no idea how quickly it would all fall apart. The day I walked into Capital City Bank to take out $10 million is still clear in my mind. The private banking manager, Mr. Harris, a bald man with round glasses and always furrowed brows, couldn't hide his worry. "Mr. Harris, I strongly advise against this," he said, tapping his pen nervously against his leather folder. "A wire transfer is normal for real estate deals this big. Cash brings unnecessary risks." I expected him to object. "I understand your concern, Mr. Harris, but this property has many interested buyers. A cash offer will give me the edge I need. The seller specifically said they prefer quick cash." He leaned forward, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "Even if that's true, we're talking about $10 million in physical money. That's $20,500 bills. It would fill several large bags and weigh about 22 pounds per million." I had done my homework. "I'm aware. I've arranged for private security to go with me directly to a safe place. The money will only be with me for 48 hours at most before the closing meeting." After almost an hour of similar talks and signing many papers that said I was responsible, Mr. Harris sadly started the process. I had to wait 3 business days for the bank to get such a large amount of cash ready. They needed to bring in money from other places. This only made me believe more that a cash offer would impress the sellers. When I told Ben about my plan that evening over dinner at our favorite Italian restaurant, his reaction was like Mr. Harris's. "Avery, this is crazy," he said, putting down his fork, his pasta forgotten. "You're putting yourself at risk. What if someone follows you from the bank? What if there's a robbery?" "I've hired Liam's security company," I replied, talking about my college friend who ran a personal security business. "2 armed guards will take me from the bank to Mom's house. The money will be in her safe overnight, and then the guards will go with me to the closing." "Why Mom's safe? Why not a bank safety deposit box?" His brown eyes showed real concern. "Bank boxes have size limits. Besides, Mom's safe is practically a vault. I had it installed for her 3 years ago when she started collecting those silly porcelain figures she worries so much about." Ben ran a hand through his dark hair, a sign that he was frustrated. "This is not needed, Ave. Wire transfers exist for a reason. The Millers have 3 offers fall through because of money problems. Cash means certainty. Trust me, I know what I'm doing." I reached across the table for his hand. "It's one night, and then we'll have our dream home." He squeezed my hand, but didn't look convinced. "I just don't understand why you won't let me come with you." "Because you have that important presentation for the river cleanup project. It's only one night. I'll be perfectly safe at Mom's." 2 days later, I stood in a private room at Capital City Bank as 2 tellers counted out $10 million in front of me. The money was put into special bags that showed if they had been opened, which were then loaded into 3 plain bags. As promised, Liam had sent 2 of his best men, Sam, a former military police officer, and Leo, who had protected important people. The drive to Mom's house was calm. We took a longer route, changing lanes often to make sure no one was following us. Sam drove, while Leo sat next to me in the back seat, his hand always near his hidden weapon. When we got to Mom's normal suburban home, her eyes got wide when she saw the security team. Brooke was there too, supposedly helping Mom get ready for a garden club meeting. I now know that was just another lie. "Goodness, Avery," Mom said, as Sam and Leo carried the bags inside. "Is all this security really needed?" $10 million isn't something to take lightly," I replied, pointing the men toward the home office where the safe was. The safe was built into the wall behind a sliding bookshelf. A bit dramatic, but Mom had insisted on the hidden feature when I had it installed for her 3 years ago when she started collecting those silly porcelain figures she worries so much about. The safe was a serious piece of equipment. Fireproof with an electronic lock and backup key system. It could easily hold all 3 bags with room for spare. As Sam and Leo put the money inside, I couldn't help but notice Mom and Brooke standing in the doorway, their eyes fixed on the bags. At the time, I thought their interest was just normal curiosity. Now I understand it was something much more planned. "We'll pick you up tomorrow at 9, Sam said as they got ready to leave. "Call if you need anything before then." After they left, a strange tension filled the house. Mom was busy in the kitchen, making dinner with unusual excitement. Brooke asked me many questions about the house I was buying, its location, and if I planned to put a similar safe there. During dinner, Mom asked questions she had never shown interest in before. "So, this money," she said, twirling spaghetti around her fork, "it's all in cash, not checks or anything." "Yes, all cash, $500 bills mostly." "And the bank just lets you walk out with that much?" Brooke asked, her voice higher than usual. "Not exactly. There was quite a process, and as you saw, I hired security." Mom nodded thoughtfully. "And these people tomorrow, they're expecting cash. They won't find it strange?" "The real estate world works differently at this level. Cash offers speak volumes, especially for properties like this." Later that evening, Mom got a phone call that she took in her bedroom with the door closed. When she came back, her cheeks were red. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Oh, just Maria from Garden Club confirming tomorrow's meeting," she said, not quite looking at me. I slept in my old bedroom that night. The twin bed was uncomfortable for my adult body. Around midnight, I thought I heard whispers in the hallway, but I thought it was just my imagination, or maybe Mom checking on me, like she used to when I was a child. If I had known it would be the last normal night of my life, I might have paid more attention to the signs, the unusual interest in the money, the secret phone calls, the quiet excitement that seemed to fill the house. Instead, tired from the stress of the withdrawal and upcoming purchase, I fell into a deep sleep, completely unaware of what morning would bring. The next morning, I woke to sunlight coming through the faded curtains of my childhood bedroom. For a moment, I felt like a teenager again, ready to start another day of high school. Then reality came back. I was 31, about to buy my dream home, and had $10 million locked in my mother's safe. The house was unusually quiet. Normally, Mom would be in the kitchen by 7, the smell of coffee and toast filling the air. I checked my phone, 7:45. Plenty of time before Sam and Lita would arrive at 9. "Mom," I called out, walking down the hallway in my pajamas. No answer. I knocked on her bedroom door. When there was no response, I pushed it open to find the bed made, looking as if it hadn't been slept in. Strange, but not worrying. Maybe she had left early for her garden club meeting. "Brooke?" I had tried knocking on the guest room door. Again, silence. An uneasy feeling started to creep over me. As I walked to the home office, the bookshelf that hid the safe was slightly open. I slid it open fully, my heart beating faster. The safe door was open, its contents gone. No bags, no $10 million, nothing. "No, no, no," I whispered, my voice getting louder with each repeat until I was screaming. "No!" I ran through the house, checking every room, every closet, as if the missing money might be hiding somewhere. In the kitchen, I found a note propped against the coffee maker, written in my mother's neat handwriting. "Avery, thanks for your money. Now we can live our dream life. Don't try to find us. Love, Mom and Brooke." My legs gave way and I sank to the kitchen floor. The note was clutched in my shaking hand. The room seemed to spin around me as the truth settled in my stomach like a block of ice. My own mother and sister had stolen my money and run away. I fumbled for my phone and called Ben, barely able to speak clearly through my sobs. "They're gone. The money. All of it. They took everything," I managed to choke out. "Avery, slow down. Who's gone? What happened?" His voice was thick with sleep. I had woken him. "Mom and Brooke, they stole the money. $10 million, Ben. They emptied the safe and disappeared." 20 minutes later, Ben burst through the front door, still wearing the sweatpants and college t-shirt he slept in, his hair messy and eyes wide with worry. He found me sitting at the kitchen table, staring blankly at my phone.
I've called them 16 times, I said without looking up. Mom's phone goes straight to voicemail. Brooks rings once, then disconnects. They've blocked me. Ben knelt beside me, taking my hands in his. We need to call the police right now. The next few hours passed in a blur. 2 police officers arrived first, followed by Detective Maria Sanchez, a sharp-eyed woman with salt and pepper hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. She took detailed notes as I explained the situation, her face showing nothing. "Let me make sure I understand," she said after I finished. "You willingly brought $10 million in cash to your mother's house, put it in her safe, and now both your mother and sister are gone along with the money." Said like that, it sounded incredibly foolish. I nodded, shame burning my cheeks. "And you have proof for this cash withdrawal?" I showed her the bank receipts and papers on my phone. She took pictures of each one, then asked, "Do you have any reason to believe they were planning this? Any strange behavior recently?" "Nothing solid," I admitted. "They seemed interested in the money, but that's normal, isn't it? $10 million in cash isn't something you see every day." Detective Sanchez's expression softened slightly. "Miss Hayes, I'll be honest with you. This is a tricky situation because you willingly brought $10 million to your mother's house, put it in her safe, and now both your mother and sister are gone along with the money." Said like that, it sounded incredibly foolish. I nodded, shame burning my cheeks. "And you have proof for this cash withdrawal?" I showed her the bank receipts and papers on my phone. She took pictures of each one, then asked, "Do you have any reason to believe they were planning this? Any strange behavior recently?" "Nothing solid," I admitted. "They seemed interested in the money, but that's normal, isn't it? $10 million in cash isn't something you see every day." Detective Sanchez's expression softened slightly. "Miss Hayes, I'll be honest with you. This is a tricky situation because you willingly brought $10 million to your mother's house, put it in her safe, and now both your mother and sister are gone along with the money." "A gift! I was buying a house. They knew that. This was theft." "I understand, and we'll investigate thoroughly, but you should prepare yourself. Family matters involving money can be difficult legally." After the detective left, promising to put out an alert for my mother and sister, Ben held me as I switched between sobbing and anger. "Who does this?" I kept asking. "What kind of mother steals from her own daughter?" My phone chimed with a text message from an unknown number. With shaking hands, I opened it to find a photo of Mom and Brooke getting on what looked like a private plane. Both wore big sunglasses and wide smiles. The message read, "Always wanted to fly private. Thanks for making it possible." 5 minutes later, a voicemail notification appeared. It was from Brooke, probably using a temporary phone. "Hey, sis. Bet you're freaking out right now. Huh. Well, get over it. You've had everything handed to you your whole life while Mom gave up everything. All those years of watching you succeed while I struggled. That money is our turn. You can make another $10 million with your big brain, but this is our only chance. Don't bother looking for us. By the time you hear this, we'll be in a country with no extradition treaty. Love you." The casual cruelty of her words felt like physical punches. Had I really been handed everything? I had worked myself to exhaustion for years, taken huge risks with my company, and always shared my success with them. I had bought Mom a house, paid her bills, helped Brooke countless times when she was in financial trouble. "They planned this," I whispered. The realization hit me. This wasn't just a chance they took. They saw the news about the company sale months ago and started planning. Ben paced the living room. "We should call Detective Sanchez back. Tell her about the text and voicemail." I nodded numbly, still trying to understand the huge betrayal. My own mother and sister, the people I had trusted most in the world, the people I thought would always have my back, they saw my success not as something to celebrate, but as something to use. As Ben called the detective, another terrible thought hit me. The house, my dream home, the purchase that was supposed to happen today. I was now $10 million short with no way to get it back in time. The life I had worked so hard to build was falling apart around me, and the worst part was that the people who destroyed it were the very ones I had tried hardest to help along the way. The following days blurred together in a fog of police interviews, lawyer meetings, and sleepless nights. Detective Maria Sanchez became a constant presence. Her caring professionalism offered a small anchor in the storm my life had become. "We've confirmed they left on a private plane to the Bahamas," she said 3 days after the theft, sitting across from me at my kitchen table. "From there, we believe they took another flight, but we're still tracking that movement." "How did they even arrange a private plane?" I asked, holding a cup of coffee I couldn't taste. "Your sister contacted a charter service 2 weeks ago. They paid cash, probably some of your money, and used fake IDs. Very organized." She paused before adding, "This level of planning suggests they may have had help." "What kind of help?" "We're looking into some connections your mother seems to have made recently. There's proof she was in contact with people known to help with this type of disappearance." The meaning hit me hard. "You're saying my mother was talking to criminals? Planning this?" Detective Sanchez's face stayed neutral. "We found searches on her computer for countries without extradition treaties dating back 3 months. There were also encrypted email messages we're still trying to read. It felt like finding out a stranger had been living in my mother's body. The woman who lectured me about returning extra change when a cashier made a mistake had been plotting a multi-million-dollar theft for months. What about relatives? Could they be staying with family somewhere?" Detective Sanchez asked. I shook my head. "Mom has a sister in Arizona, Aunt Susan, but they haven't spoken in years after some fight. Brooke mentioned cousins in Florida once, but I've never met them." The detective made a note. "We'll look into both. Even estranged family can become appealing when there's money involved." After the detective left, promising to put out an alert for my mother and sister, I called David Miller, the family lawyer who had handled my company's contracts and my personal matters for years. His response to the situation was direct. "This is theft, plain and simple," he stated firmly when we met in his downtown office. "The papers from the bank clearly show the money was yours, taken out for a specific reason. Your mother had no right to it."
Detective Sanchez mentioned it might be complicated because I put it in Mom's safe willingly, I said. David took off his glasses, pinching the bridge of his nose. "It makes things complicated, yes, but doesn't change the basic nature of the crime. However, pursuing this internationally will be hard. We need to file urgent requests, contact authorities in likely destination countries, and freeze any accounts they might transfer the money into. How long will all that take?" His expression told me what I didn't want to hear. "Weeks at least, possibly months, and even then, success isn't guaranteed, especially if they've planned as carefully as it seems." I left his office with a growing sense of dread. The legal process would be long, expensive, and might not work. Meanwhile, my mother and sister were free, spending my money without a care. The emotional toll was becoming too much. I started seeing Dr. Olivia Green, a therapist who specialized in trauma and betrayal. Twice a week, in her softly lit office surrounded by plants and abstract art, I struggled to explain how much pain I was in. "I keep replaying every interaction, looking for signs I missed," I admitted during our third session. "Was Mom always this person? Did she always resent me? Was every 'I love you' just part of a long trick?" Dr. Green leaned forward slightly. "The human mind isn't built to handle betrayal of this size, especially from those we've thought of as safe people. It challenges everything we understand about reality." "I trusted them completely," I whispered. "I would have given them anything they asked for. Why steal from me?" Some people develop twisted ways of thinking about money and fairness. They may have created a story where they deserved this, where taking was right because of perceived unfairness. It doesn't make it true, and it certainly doesn't make it right. These sessions helped, but only a little. Nightmares troubled my sleep, dreams where I chased my mother and sister through endless airport terminals, always a few steps behind. I'd wake up gasping, covered in sweat, reaching for Ben, only to find his side of the bed empty.
He had started sleeping in the guest room, saying my restlessness kept him from getting the sleep he needed for work. Our relationship was another victim of the theft. What had once been a partnership full of warmth and understanding was becoming more and more strained. Small disagreements turned into arguments. Silence stretched between us like a physical distance. "You need to start thinking about moving forward," Ben said one evening after I had spent hours on the phone with Detective Sanchez, discussing a possible sighting of my mother in Singapore. "It's been almost 4 weeks, Avery." Moving forward, they stole $10 million from me. "I know," he sighed, sounding tired, "but you're letting this take over you. You've barely left the apartment, you're not sleeping, you're not eating properly. You turned down that consulting offer from Newtek because I can't focus on work right now." That's exactly my point. Your entire life has become about finding them. There's more to you than this situation, Ave. I couldn't make him understand that this wasn't just about the money. It was about my entire reality being shattered. Every childhood memory was now tainted. Every sacrifice my mother had supposedly made for me was questioned. Meanwhile, the investigation kept uncovering disturbing details. Mom had apparently been using a secret email account for years, one I knew nothing about. In it, Detective Sanchez found messages with Brooke dating back 18 months discussing what they called the plan. There were mentions of casino visits and large gambling debts my mother had built up without my knowledge. Bank records showed she had taken out a second mortgage on the house I had bought her, probably to cover these debts. There were also records of small thefts from previous jobs, nothing big enough to lead to prosecution, but showing a pattern of dishonesty that I had been completely blind to. Most disturbing was a folder of documents Detective Sanchez found hidden in a small space above Mom's closet. It contained detailed notes on my company's sale process, articles about my success carefully marked in my mother's handwriting, and a list titled Avery's Weaknesses. At the top of that list, trusts family completely. Each discovery was another knife twisting in an already fatal wound. The mother I thought I knew. The woman who had worked 2 shifts to keep a roof over our heads, who had sat up with me when I had nightmares, who had beamed with pride at my college graduation, was a carefully made lie. Or perhaps worse, she had once been that person. But somewhere along the way, bitterness and greed had eaten away at whatever love she felt for me, leaving behind only calculation and opportunity. As the investigation stretched into its 6th week, the practical effects of the theft became harder and harder to ignore. The sellers of my dream home had accepted another offer. The financial advisors I had arranged to help manage my new wealth were asking uncomfortable questions about the missing money. Rumors were spreading in the tech community about my judgment and stability. My life was falling apart thread by thread, and I couldn't see how to stop it. 6 weeks after the theft, I sat in Detective Sanchez's office. The now familiar room did nothing to lessen the blow of her latest update. She sighed. "The Singapore authorities found the hotel where they stayed, but they checked out 3 days ago. They've changed how they look." I stared at the surveillance images. My mother's previously shoulder-length gray hair was now short and dyed a rich auburn color. Brooke had done blonde and was wearing colored contacts that changed her brown eyes to blue. Both had lost weight and were dressing in expensive designer clothes I didn't recognize. "They don't even look like themselves," I murmured, tracing my finger over my mother's face. The woman in the photo was a stranger with my mother's bone structure.
They're using the names Catherine and Olivia Smith. We believe they bought these identities on the dark web. They're very detailed fakes with digital trails going back several years. How is that even possible? Detective Sanchez leaned back in her chair. With enough money, unfortunately, almost anything is possible. The group they're working with specializes in this type of identity change. They create paper trails, digital footprints, even social media histories. So you're saying they could be anyone, anywhere, and we'd have no way of knowing? Not exactly. These identities were found because we knew to look for them. But yes, they're making tracking them much harder. I left the police station feeling empty. The investigation was ongoing, but every clue seemed to disappear into nothing.
My mother and sister were professional ghosts now, slipping through different countries with their new identities and seemingly endless money. When I returned to my apartment, I found 3 voice messages waiting. The first was from David Miller, my lawyer, with an update on the international legal filings. The second was from the real estate agent who had been helping me find a new dream home, checking if I wanted to see a property that had just come on the market. The third was from Mark Johnson, a potential business partner I had been talking with before the theft. His message was polite but clear. Given the recent, complications in your personal situation, I think it's best if we put our discussions on hold for now. Call me when things settle down. It wasn't the first professional chance that had disappeared since news of the theft broke. A story in Tech Innovators Monthly had been quietly canceled. Speaking engagements were being rescheduled. Former colleagues who had been eager to discuss possible collaborations suddenly had full calendars. The tech world, for all its talk of new ideas and risk-taking, was very traditional when it came to personal problems. No one wanted to be linked with someone whose judgment was so publicly questioned. After all, if I couldn't protect my money from my family, how could I be trusted with investors' money or important industry partnerships? The breaking point came that evening when Ben returned from work, his face carefully neutral as he set his laptop bag on the counter. I got a call from Detective Sanchez today. She wanted to know if I'd heard anything from your mother or sister. And had you? The question came out sharper than I intended. His face hardened. Of course not. But the fact that you'd even ask that says everything about where we are right now. Where we are? Yes, Avery, where we are. He gestured between us. You don't sleep. You barely eat. You spend every waking moment either talking to the detective or that lawyer or looking through international banking rules. When was the last time we had a conversation that wasn't about the theft? I tried to remember, but couldn't. The theft had become my whole world, the search for justice, my only purpose. They stole $10 million, Ben. What am I supposed to do? Just let it go? No, but you need to find a way to live while you're dealing with this. It's been 6 weeks and you're still in exactly the same place emotionally as you were the day it happened. That's not fair. What's not fair is watching the woman I love disappear into this black hole of obsession and being completely unable to help her. His voice cracked slightly. I've tried to be patient, I've tried to be supportive, but you're not letting me in, Ave. You're shutting down every attempt I make to connect with you. I felt defensive anger rising. So, this is my fault. I'm the victim here. Yes, you are, but you're using that as an excuse to push away everyone who cares about you. Your friends have stopped calling because you never return their messages. You've turned down every invitation to get out of this apartment, and when I try to talk about anything other than the theft, you shut down or find a way to circle back to it. Deep down, I knew he was right, but admitting it felt like another surrender, another loss I couldn't afford. What do you want from me? I asked, my voice small. Ben ran a hand through his hair. I want you to decide if there's room in your life for anything besides this search, because right now it doesn't feel like there is. Are you giving me an ultimatum? I'm asking for honesty, Avery. Can you see a future beyond this? Can you imagine a day when you're not consumed by finding them? I opened my mouth to say yes, to promise him I could move forward, but the words wouldn't come. The truth was, I couldn't imagine it. The betrayal had become my identity. The search had become my purpose. I think I need some space, Ben finally said into the silence. I'm going to stay with Chris for a while. When you're ready to have a life again, a real life, not this waiting game, call me. He packed a bag while I sat still on the couch, unable to find the words to make him stay, unsure if I even wanted to. When the door closed behind him, the apartment felt incredibly empty. I spent that night alone, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the past 6 weeks, then going back further, looking at my entire relationship with my mother and sister through this new, tainted view. Had there been signs all along? Had I been willingly blind because admitting the truth was too painful? Or had they genuinely changed, corrupted by the idea of wealth beyond their dreams? I had hit bottom. I hadn't slept. I hadn't eaten. Ben was gone. My professional reputation was ruined. The money was still missing. And despite weeks of international investigation, my mother and sister remained free, enjoying the results of their betrayal. I stood in my kitchen, staring at my reflection in the dark window. The woman looking back at me was a stranger. Hollow-eyed, thin, defeated. This wasn't who I was. This wasn't who I wanted to be. Something had to change. I just didn't know what or how. The call that changed everything came at 2:13 a.m., waking me from a restless sleep. I fumbled for my phone, squinting at the screen. It was Sam Miller, one of the security guards who escorted me to my mother's house that fateful day. "Sam, what's wrong?" My voice was thick with sleep. "Miss Hayes, I apologize for calling so late, but I need to speak with you immediately in person. It's about your situation." Fully awake now, I sat up. "It's the middle of the night. Can this wait until morning?" "No, ma'am, it can't. What I need to tell you shouldn't be discussed over the phone. I can be at your apartment in 20 minutes. His tone left no room for argument. "All right, I'll be here." Exactly 19 minutes later, my doorbell rang. Sam stood in the hallway still wearing his security company polo shirt, his face serious.
"Thank you for seeing me," he said as I let him in. "Is the apartment secure? No cleaning service or maintenance staff been here recently?" "No, just me. What's this about, Sam?" He scanned the living room before speaking. "The money your mother and sister took, it wasn't real." The world seemed to tilt. "What?" "The cash in those bags was fake. Very good fakes, but fake nonetheless." I sank onto the couch trying to understand his words. "That's impossible. I took it from Capital City Bank myself. You were there." Sam nodded. "Yes, but what you don't know is that Liam, my boss, has a standard rule for high-value transports. All cash bundles are tagged with tracking devices and security strips. When we put the bags in your mother's safe, I activated those systems, and the trackers showed the bags leaving your mother's house at 4:12 a.m. and going to a private airfield. But here's the thing. The security strips detect the chemical makeup of real money. 2 hours after the bags left your mother's house, the strip showed a complete change in makeup. The real money had been swapped out." My mind raced, trying to make sense of this. So someone stole the real money before my mother took the bags? A double theft? Sam shifted uncomfortably. "Not exactly. The swap happened at Liam's secure facility the night before we delivered it to your mother's house. The money was replaced with high-quality fakes, visually impossible to tell from real money." "Are you saying Liam stole my money?" Anger started to replace confusion. "No, Miss Hayes." Sam took a deep breath. "I'm saying you arranged the switch yourself." For a moment, I thought I had misheard him. "What?" 3 days before the withdrawal, you contacted Liam privately. You said you had concerns about your mother's intentions and wanted to set up a backup plan. You had us swap the real cash for fakes and secure the real money in our most protected vault. My head spun. "Sam, I never did that. I would remember something like that." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded paper. "This is the special instruction form you signed. That's your signature, isn't it?" I stared at the paper, at my clear signature authorizing exactly what Sam had described. A memory flickered. Liam pulling me aside at the bank, a brief talk I'd dismissed as normal security procedure, signing something without fully reading it amid the stress of the huge withdrawal. I don't remember this specifically," I admitted, "but everything was so chaotic that day. Liam wanted to contact you immediately after your mother took the bags, but our monitoring system broke down. We only confirmed the switch happened yesterday when we did a full system check. He sent me to tell you in person because of how sensitive the situation is."
So my mother and sister have bags full of extremely convincing but ultimately worthless paper. The real $10 million is in our secure facility waiting for your instructions? Laughter bubbled up from somewhere deep inside me. A strange, almost wild sound that I couldn't control. All this time, all this pain, and my mother and sister had stolen worthless fakes. The perfect justice of it was almost too good to believe. I need to see it, I said when I could finally speak normally again. The real money. I need to see it with my own eyes. Of course, I can take you there now. 2 hours later, I stood in a temperature-controlled vault beneath Liam's security company headquarters, staring at 3 familiar bags. With shaking hands, I unzipped one, showing stacks of genuine $500 bills, exactly as I remembered from the bank. "It's all here," Liam confirmed, standing beside me. $10 million, untouched. "And the tracking devices and the fake money?" I asked, a plan already forming in my mind. "Still active? We can monitor their location in real time?" He showed me a tablet displaying a blinking dot on a map, currently showing movement in Monaco. I straightened my shoulders, feeling truly awake for the first time in weeks. "I want everything you have on their movements. Every location, every stop, every transaction you can trace. Ms. Hayes, if I may ask, what are you planning to do?" A smile spread across my face. Not the broken, empty look I'd worn for weeks, but something sharper, more determined, something I should have done from the beginning. I'm going to take control of the situation. Over the next 72 hours, I changed from victim to planner. I put together a small, trusted team. Liam for security knowledge, Detective Sanchez, who was at first doubtful but quickly convinced by the proof, Sarah Jones, my former chief operations officer and closest friend, and David Miller, who helped with the complex international legal issues. We met in a conference room at Liam's facility, surrounded by maps, financial records, and surveillance photos. The tracking data from the fake money had given us a detailed picture of my mother and sister's movements across Europe and Asia. "They've set a pattern," I explained, pointing to the map. "After Singapore, they went to Dubai, then Monaco. Now they're in Nice. They're staying at 5-star resorts, shopping at fancy stores, eating at expensive restaurants. They're spending what they think is my money as quickly as possible. Based on their current spending rate, they'd run through all $10 million within 18 months. They're not just spending, they're showing off. Look at these social media accounts we found." She showed several Instagram profiles with carefully cropped photos of luxury goods, exotic places, and champagne toasts. Though the faces were never clearly visible, I recognized my mother's hands, my sister's unique posture. They want me to see it, I realized. They think I'm tracking these accounts, watching them enjoy what they stole from me, which gives us an advantage. Liam said they were predictable based on their social media posts and spending habits. "We believe they're headed to Milan next, probably arriving within 3 days. Then that's where we'll be waiting," I decided. I want to see their faces when they realize what they actually took. The plan came together with military precision. Private investigators in France confirmed my mother and sister had booked flights to Milan. Hotel reservations were found under their fake identities at the exclusive Palazzo Rossi. David arranged for help from Italian financial authorities who were interested in the movement of fake money. 5 days later, I sat in a first-class seat bound for Milan. Sarah was beside me, reviewing our strategy one final time. For the first time since the theft, I felt something like peace. Not because I was about to face the people who had betrayed me, but because I had taken back my control, my power. "Are you nervous as our plane began to land?" I thought about the question carefully. "No," I replied, surprising myself with the truth. "I'm ready." Milan greeted us with unusually warm sunshine and clear blue skies, as if the universe itself approved of what was about to happen. Our team set up a command center in a suite at a hotel near the Palazzo Rossi, where Liam's surveillance confirmed my mother and sister had checked in that morning. "They've made dinner reservations at La Trattoria restaurant for 8, Detective Sanchez informed us, reviewing the information gathered by our Italian contacts. "Private table in the back, champagne pre-ordered." "Perfect," I said, studying the restaurant's floor plan. "We'll confront them there. Public enough that they can't make a scene, private enough for what needs to be said." David Miller adjusted his tie nervously. "Remember, We have Italian financial authorities standing by. Once we confirm the fake bills are in their possession, they'll move in. I nodded, but a strange calm had settled over me. The anger that had driven me for weeks had turned into something colder, more focused. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about closure, about taking back my story. At precisely 8:15 p.m., I walked into La Trattoria wearing a simple black dress, hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. Sarah and Liam positioned themselves at the bar. Detective Sanchez waited outside with the Italian authorities, and David remained at the command center, coordinating our legal response. I spotted them immediately. My mother wore an emerald green designer gown I'd never seen before, her newly auburn hair elegantly styled. Brooke was draped in what looked like Chanel, diamond earrings catching the light as she laughed at something on her phone. On the table between them sat an open bottle of expensive champagne and a black designer handbag that likely contained some of the fake cash. They didn't notice me until I was standing directly beside their table. "Room for one more?" I asked quietly. The change in their faces would have been funny under different circumstances. Shock, fear, and confusion chased each other across their faces as they saw me. "Avery?" My mother's voice was barely a whisper. "How did you find us?" "It wasn't hard. You haven't exactly been subtle." I pulled out a chair and sat down, signaling to the hovering waiter that everything was fine. "Nice dress, by the way, Valentino." Brooke recovered first, her face hardening. "What do you want? Come to beg for your money back?" I smiled, the calm inside me deepening. "Actually, I came to ask how you're enjoying spending it. Is it everything you dreamed it would be?" My mother's eyes narrowed with suspicion. "What kind of game are you playing?" "No game. I'm genuinely curious. $10 million is a lot of money. Has it been worth it? Worth destroying our family? Worth becoming fugitives? Worth throwing away any shred of honesty you might have had left?" Brooke laughed, though it sounded forced. "Save the guilt trip, Avery. You can make another $10 million with your precious company. This was our only chance at the life we deserve." "The life you deserve," I repeated thoughtfully. "And what exactly do you think that is?" "Freedom," my mother said, finding her voice. "Freedom from struggling, from always being one emergency away from disaster, from watching you succeed while I what? Lived in the house I bought you? Accepted the monthly allowance I provided? Called me every time you needed money for another problem you caused?" The words came out sharper than I intended, and I took a breath, calming myself. "But that's not really why I'm here." I reached for Brooke's handbag, ignoring her protest, as I opened it and took out a stack of bills. "Do you know what's special about $500 bills?" They exchanged confused glances. "They're rare enough that most people have never handled one, which makes them perfect for counterfeiting if you know what you're doing." I held the stack up to the light, showing them the watermark. High-quality fakes, almost impossible to find without special equipment. The blood drained from my mother's face. "What are you talking about?" "The money you stole? It's fake. Every single bill worthless." Brooke snatched the stack from my hand. "You're lying. We've been spending it for weeks." "Small amounts in tourist areas where cashiers don't look too closely, or at luxury stores where they were distracted by your apparent wealth. But try depositing a big sum in a bank. Try buying property. It won't work." My mother's hands trembled as she reached for her wine glass. "I don't believe you." "The real money never left the security company's vault. It's still there, all $10 million, waiting for me to use it as intended." "That's impossible," Brooke hissed. "We took it from the safe ourselves." "After it had been swapped for fakes, yes." I leaned forward. "Did you really think I'd leave that much cash unsecured without a backup plan? I knew something was wrong. I didn't want to believe it was you, but I protected myself anyway." The truth of my words registered in their faces, dawning horror mixed with disbelief. Brooke began frantically searching through her bag, looking at the bills more closely. "Even if that's true," my mother said, her voice shaky, "you can't prove we took it. It would be your word against ours." That might have been true, except for the tracking devices embedded in the fake bills, devices that have been recording your movements across 3 continents. I adjusted subtly toward the entrance where Detective Sanchez now stood with 2 Italian officers. The authorities know exactly where you've been and what you've done. Brooke's face crumpled. You set us up? No, I corrected her gently. You set yourselves up the moment you decided to steal from me.
What followed was surprisingly calm. The Italian officers approached quietly, discreetly showing their badges and asking that we all come with them. My mother and sister were separated for questioning. Their hotel rooms were searched, revealing nearly $7 million in fake bills they hadn't yet spent. In a plain interview room at the Milan Financial Crimes Division, I sat across from my mother for what I knew would be the last time. Her designer dress looked out of place against the institutional furniture. Her carefully applied makeup was smudged from crying. Why? I asked simply. I gave you everything you ever asked for. What made you think you deserved it all? She wouldn't meet my eyes. You make it sound so simple. It is simple, Mom. You're my mother. I loved you. I trusted you. And you had everything. The words burst from her like they'd been held back for years. Everything always came so easily to you. Good grades, scholarships, success. Do you know what it's like to watch your child surpass you in every possible way? To become the charity case in your daughter's perfect life? I never saw you that way. I wanted to share my success with you, with both of you. On your terms, she countered bitterly. Your money, your rules, your constant judgment about how we lived our lives. I thought about this, wondering if there was truth in her view that I hadn't recognized. Maybe there were times I was too controlling with the help I offered, but stealing from me, planning it for months, that's not a response to controlling behavior. That's something much darker. She had no answer for that. In another room, Brooke was more open with Detective Sanchez, perhaps hoping for leniency. She explained how her mother had first suggested the idea after learning about my company's sale, how they had researched ways to disappear with large sums of money, practiced opening the safe when I visited, and carefully created their cover story about the garden club meeting. The legal proceedings were complicated and involved many different countries. In the end, both faced charges for theft, possession of fake money, and fraud. My mother received a 5-year sentence, Brooke 3 years with the chance of early release after 18 months. The question of whether to press charges had been agonizing. David and Detective Sanchez both advised that I should, arguing that without consequences, they might target someone else in the future. In the end, I agreed, though I chose not to provide victim impact statements that might have made their sentences longer. They've lost everything that matters, I told David as we finished the paperwork. Their freedom, their relationship with me, their trustworthiness. That's punishment enough. 3 months after the confrontation in Milan, I finally completed the purchase of my dream home. Not the glass and steel mansion I had originally wanted, but a warm, welcoming property on a wooded lot overlooking the city. It had fewer bedrooms, but more character, wraparound porches perfect for morning coffee, and a sense of security I desperately needed. Ben had returned after our confrontation in Milan. His pride in how I'd handled the situation rekindled what had faded between us. We were rebuilding slowly, with regular date nights and a standing appointment with a couples therapist who was helping us process the trauma of the past months. You know what's ironic? I said to him one evening as we sat on the porch swing, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. If they just asked, I would have given the money. Not $10 million, but enough to change their lives for the better. Ben's arm tightened around my shoulders. Some people can't ask. Taking feels like power to them, especially when asking would mean admitting you had something they needed. I'm not sure I'll ever understand it completely, but I'm learning to live with the questions. And I was. The nightmares had stopped. I had returned to work, starting a consulting firm that allowed me to use my technical skills without the all-consuming pressure of running a startup. I had reconnected with friends I had ignored during my obsessive search and found unexpected strength in being open as I shared my story. Perhaps most importantly, I had learned to trust again. Carefully, wisely, but truly. The betrayal had not defined me, merely shaped who I would become next. You know, Ben said, breaking the comfortable silence between us, most people would have been destroyed by what happened to you, but you turned it around. You're stronger now than you were before. I thought about this, watching the last rays of sunlight disappear beyond the horizon. Not stronger, I corrected gently, just more myself, more certain of what matters. What mattered, I discovered, wasn't the money or even the justice I had obtained. It was the ability to face betrayal without becoming bitter, to seek truth without losing compassion, to rebuild without forgetting the lessons of what had been broken. As darkness settled around us, I found myself truly grateful, not for what had happened, but for what it had shown. My own resilience, the loyalty of those who had stood beside me, and the deep understanding that while trust could be shattered, it could also be rebuilt stronger and wiser than before. I've shared this story not to satisfy anyone's curiosity about family drama or financial crime, but because I know many of you have experienced betrayal in your own lives. Maybe not on this scale, but painful nonetheless. If my experience offers any comfort or wisdom, it's this. Betrayal tells you everything about the betrayer and nothing about your worth. Have you ever experienced a betrayal that ultimately made you stronger? Share your story in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, please like and subscribe to join our community of resilient survivors. Remember, sometimes the greatest plot twists in our lives lead to the most beautiful rewritings of our stories. Thank you for listening, and until next time, trust wisely, but never stop trusting completely.